Hey guys, we got our 8.7% COLA raise for our VA and Social Security from the US. So that's really, really great news for us. It's not great news about the inflation, but it's great news we're getting an 8.7% raise. Now, usually, like I said, I've said this in the past before, the Philippines inflation rate is usually a little bit lower. I do see a little bit of inflation. I don't think it's like back in the States. I mean, some people back in the States, depending on what state you live in, they're telling me like 20% or 15%. They say it's actually higher than what they're saying. So they're probably at a loss over there in the States right now with the 8.7 because they're not taking some things into consideration. And they did kind of change things back there a little bit. So it is kind of scary for them just to get an 8.7 because I think they deserve like more like, 12 or 15 or whatever back there, to be honest with you. But for us people living over here, that's actually a bonus when you consider our 59 to 1 exchange rate, 59 pesos to $1 exchange rate, which is like right around the current rate. It fluctuates between 85 and not 80, 85, 58 and 59. So it's between 58 and 59 right now, fluctuating in there. And I think it went over 59 for a little while. So it's starting to head towards 60. They're saying maybe by the end of the year we might be up to say 63 to 67. That's the word on the streets. Do I hope it goes to that rate? In some ways, yes, I do. I mean, because it gives us more buying power. But for the average Filipino on the streets, it's not going to help at all. We got new gutters going up here today. Our landlord's putting in new gutters and they're working out back, so you can probably hear the work going on around here. But I did want to put out a little ditty about the COLA raise because I thought that was really good news. We've been waiting to hear that. So when it came out, I was like, okay, that's awesome. That's fantastic. So for anybody that's, I believe some retirees, they'll get that same rate depending on, what state you're in, what pension plan you're with and stuff like that. Some pension plans will follow that COLA raise the same as the Social Security or the same as the VA. They'll follow it, and some won't. They have different processes that they have to go through and stuff like that. But I mean, for most people, that's really, really great news. But for the Philippine expats, the Philippine expats have made out the best with this, I think, because of the fact that we're on that high right now of with that exchange rate, and that has really produced a lot of higher incomes for the expats over here. Not to say that it can't go backwards. A lot of guys that are back home saying, geez, I can live, and this is where you don't want to get caught up in it. So this is like a warning to you guys. A lot of guys are thinking, well, now I can definitely live on $1,000 in the Philippines. But if it goes backwards, you lose all that. If it goes back to 40, if it goes back to 50 or something like that, guess what? You're going to lose a good percentage of your income because you're going to lose all those pesos get shaved off right away. This is probably not going to stay at this rate forever. This is just a temporary thing because of the things that are playing out in the world right now with the Ukraine, with problems in the United States, with all these different countries having problems with each other, and it's just the political climate in the world right now is terrible. And I just want to talk about that because if you're back home and you're considering coming over here just because of the exchange rate, don't. Make sure you have a well-planned plan written out that covers these dips and rises all the time. And that's one of the reasons why I tell people, hey, guys, you need to be in the sweet spot budget between $2,000 to $3,000 so you can bank some of that money. Bank it and save it for a rainy day. But a lot of guys, they're of this mentality like, well, I'll be fine if I die, I die. Well, if you're sick in the hospital and you're not dying, but you're just sitting in the hospital and you got no money, you ain't leaving that hospital, and I keep getting back to that because I can't stress enough. I see it way, way too much over here. It really hurts me to see that when I see people like that and they're doing GoFundMes or, they're asking for donations or something. It hurts me to see that because that's a lack of planning issue. And I've seen it probably about 10 times since I've been here, at least. I've seen different people fall sick and I see the GoFundMes go up and they're an expat, or I see somebody on the streets up in Manila or something, and it's usually because either it's a girlfriend issue or a sickness issue, and they get caught up and they can't leave the country. They can't leave. They're stuck here, for financial reasons, or they got blacklisted from getting on a plane for some reason, or they can't leave because they owe debt or something, or whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but I see people up there sometimes right outside the embassy, and they're living on the streets on occasion. And I usually see it like probably once every year or two. I'll see somebody up there living in the middle with the poor people up at Row House Boulevard up there. I see people up there, and it's like, man, like, how did you get from point A to point B? You know, and it probably is because of lack of planning. Never invest in things if it's going to take up your emergency funds and stuff like that. And a lot of people are doing that also. I just want to touch on this a little bit because of the fact that where we are going to get that extra money, a lot of people just blow it. Don't blow that money. Save it. You know, put it aside. Put it aside for medical issues that are going to come up in the future. And they will come up. I talk about that all the time, but this COLA raise is going to be a blessing for a lot of people if you use it right, because most of us have already accustomed ourselves to living on the current rates that we're living on now. We've already we're accustomed to living that way. So why not keep living that way rather than spend that money, just bank it with whatever other money we're banking too. And then something comes up later on. Guess what? Don't put it in the bank and think, well, maybe I'll buy a house, or maybe I'll buy a condo later, or maybe I'll invest it in a business. No, keep it. Be smart. Think about your money before you do stupid things. This COLA raise is a huge blessing for anybody, that's living in the Philippines, that's getting these tremendous gains, and also in other countries for that matter. A lot of other countries, even both in Europe and other places, wherever there's expats living, they get tremendous gains. They're getting more bang for their dollar by living outside the U.S. than living in the U.S. So, I mean, this is like an anomaly, and it's sure to break down sooner or later. It's going to break down. I mean, it's just that the United States government right now is really pissing off a lot of other countries because the dollar is too strong. And it has to kind of weaken a little bit to let these other countries come back to where they were. It's breaking down these other countries and making them poor. And it's not a good place to be in the world. Yeah, because what's going to happen is that some of these other countries are going to cry out loud and say, hey, okay, we want a world currency then. So that way everybody's on par. That's what they're going to cry out for. And that's the last thing we need. It's great that we have the dollar the way it is, but if the dollar becomes too strong, other countries are going to cry out and say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't right. This is not right that the dollar has that so much strength in the world. They have so much power in the world that they can weaken our dollar down, our pesos, our dollar, our yuan, or whatever it is, weaken it to where it is now. And that's a bad spot to be for these countries. And they're looking at the United States right now. A lot of these countries, and you can read a lot of stories on this stuff, and they're kind of looking at the U.S. like, that's not good that the U.S. is this strong right now. That's a bad place for us to be, and they should never be into that place where they're that strong. But yet back home, the dollar it's worthless. It's worthless. I mean, you guys got super high inflation, and that inflation is killing everybody. Because you got the petrodollars and all that stuff, and all this stuff all kind of ties together, and it makes one big ball of wax that's just a mess. And let's hope that all this kind of tamps down a little bit. We get back down to like 53 to 55 pesos to $1. That's a good place to be, but granted, with this raise that we just got, us expats over here, we're in a good spot. God bless, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Thanks, guys.